Castle with tabs on tap. And why this is technically Tabs on Tap episode 11, part two, because I noticed something going on in my live stream here on Restream, and I had several viewers, and all of a sudden everyone just disappeared. And I'm like, okay, something is going on. And it doesn't take long. Facebook has already blocked my stream for today. I'm not really sure why. And they probably won't tell me, but oh my goodness. So episode 11 part one has been blocked and it appears to be deleted. I didn't have a whole lot to say. I have no idea. Most likely, it's unfortunate in this business that we can't all get along. But what happens, and it's happened to me on every show I've ever been on, the competition likes to report us, or sometimes it's Democrats or other folks. What they'll do is they'll go on and they'll see your video and they'll hurry up and flag it as violent. And so all of the flags I've been receiving from Facebook are saying that they're flagged over violence. And if you know me, if you watched any of my shows, I always say very explicitly that I do not condone violence. So somebody is clearly flagging the show, stating that I am out there propagating violence. So I apologize for whatever happened today on Facebook. I don't know if it's competitors. I don't know if it is Democrats. I don't know if it's maybe Facebook fact checkers. But either way, the beginning of the show was flagged for violent content. I have no idea why, because the only thing I talked about was just getting into the Middle East, which I'll get back to that. I was talking about Rittenhouse in that first little spot. I talked a little bit about the Olympics and the boxing match between Karini and Khalif. And so if you want to watch that, you can watch it on Twitter, you can watch it on YouTube. I'm not going to repeat it. I did not say anything violent, so I'm not sure what's going on. So what I was talking about when Facebook cut me off, is I was getting into the prisoner swap, and I'm not sure how much of you guys talked about that or heard me talk about that. And and I'm going to start over with that subject. Clearly, this was a CIA swap, CIA asset swap. The timing is not coincidence. We have Russia, who very much wants their assets back. No question about it. They've been asking for us to work out a deal with Germany and release a couple of the Germany's prisoners to make sure that we here in the United States could release them back to Russia. And that's exactly what we did. And we, in turn, Russia released 16 of our American prisoners. At least three of them are known to have shared intelligence from Russia to the United States. And they, at least one of them, caught red handed. So these are definitely CIA assets. They are people, for the most part, that the United States had over in Russia, spying on Russia. Whether people want to deny it or tell you that they weren't spies, they were spies. And Russia had every reason to keep them. The United States, we have over 100 Americans over in Russia being held in Russian prisons right now, and we didn't free all of them. Only the 16 CIA assets that we really wanted. And in return, we also returned assets back to Russia, one of them being Vadim Krasikov. Now, he is a Russian intelligence officer. He is responsible for killing a Chechen officer that had executed some Russians that were being held prisoners of war. And Putin wants him back, no question about it. And I absolutely am positive. I am positive that we made out the CIA deal, not only to make Biden and Harris look good, but more than anything, because we need Putin in the ear of Iran and talking to Iran and asking them to please do not attack the United States, do not attack Israel, do not escalate this war in the Middle East any further than it needs to go. There is no doubt in my mind that this swap took place because we need Putin right now to be on our side. And there's so much going on in the Middle East. This out of the 16 prisoners that were released to us, we had Marine Paul Whelan. We've been fighting hard to get him back for a long time. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. Now, Gershkovich was caught red-handed spying, sending intelligence from Russia back to the United States. absolutely a CIA asset. We had Russian American journalist Alsu Kurmakasheva. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. As you know, the prisoner swap took place yesterday at Joint Base Andrews. And I'm going to play a little bit of a video just to show they want Harris to look good, right? But this woman, she just cannot get it right. I never have a clue what she is saying. I have no idea what this woman is saying. And I've noticed in all these videos that Biden just continues to get taller. And that's besides the point. So here they are. Here they are at Joint Base Andrews greeting our CIA assets.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances.
Say what? Say what? What is she talking about? I don't even think she knows what she's talking about. I really don't think she knows what she's talking about. I don't understand why they're not preparing her better. Why isn't she being coached? Why isn't someone in her ear like they are Biden's telling her what to say so that she sounds a little bit more presidential? Because right now she just sounds crazy, crazy. So anyway, back to the CIA asset swap. No question, that is a strategic move to have Putin in the ear of Iran, asking them to back down because right now things are very, very heated over in the Middle East. I mean, what you guys didn't hear before the show shut off a few moments ago, we have a dozen warships heading over to the Middle East right now. 4,000 Marines. It's the USS Theodore Roosevelt, along with its warships, which is termed WASP Amphibious Ready Group. 4,000 Marines heading into the Middle East right now because things are escalating very, very quickly. We have a lot of reports. You know, this is really strange, but there is a reporter. She's a Lebanese journalist, and she claims that the IDF used WhatsApp to target the leader of Hezbollah and the leader of Hamas. And what she is claiming is that people that the IDF was able to compromise, that were on the teams of both Hezbollah and Hamas, they were able to send a message to Hania, as an example, that said, you know, something strategic message, click on this link, believe it or not. And when you click on that link, it installs spyware onto your phone and it gives a precise location of where you are. Now you would think, well, why would the leader of Hamas and Hezbollah fall for such a thing? Well, if they compromise someone that's close to them and that person sends something, obviously they're going to be trusted. And that is what this Lebanese journalist is stating. Now, Meta, of course, they have said, no, we are not involved. You know, we did not allow them to use WhatsApp. But it's kind of crazy to think that WhatsApp could be used to install spyware that gives your exact location, exact pinpoint location. And let's say, as an example, we know that Dr. Ishmael Hania, he was in Tehran in his apartment, in his bedroom when the attack occurred. And if any of you saw the video of the explosion of when he was killed, it was very precise. It was very precise. So we've got a lot of other ways to spy on people, as we know, but wouldn't it be interesting if you could send a spy app on WhatsApp of all things and use WhatsApp to target someone? So that's something you're probably, if you haven't already heard about it, you're probably going to hear a little bit about it. The situation, again, it is really intensifying. It really is. We had a statement yesterday. It was made by the Secretary General of Hezbollah. His name is Hassan Nasrallah. I'm going to play that for you. And he's stating, we are entering a new phase against Israel. And not only Israel, but anyone who assisted Israel. Well, you know who that is? That's us. We assisted Israel. And I have no doubt in my mind that we are bending over backwards to try to make sure that Hezbollah and Iran do not attack us. I can guarantee it for you. I'm going to play this video. There's a translator here so you'll understand what is going on. It's a very short video.
Today, I don't want to use a lot of words. In one sentence only, the enemy and those who stand behind the enemy must await our coming retaliation, which will be certain, God willing. The enemy and those who stand behind the enemy must wait for our upcoming retaliation, which will certainly come about, God willing. There is no debate regarding this. And the days and the nights and the battlefield separates us. No, we're looking for a real...
That's kind of scary. You know, the folks that are behind behind Israel, their enemy, well, that's us. And it's also Europe, you know, it's also the UK. And I think we're all a little nervous because it's not often we are threatened directly by Hezbollah or Hamas or Iran. And we all know that we've had so many people coming across our border illegally. We already know that there are already terrorists in our country. We know that. We know Iran has operatives in our country. I'm sure Hezbollah does. I'm sure that there's several terror related people in our country. We know there are. It's not even a guess. They are here. What are they going to do? I mean, is this the moment that we've all thought would eventually happen where terrorist cells in our own country are going to be activated? And when you assassinate, and you know, we think of the leader of Hezbollah, the leader of Hamas as terrorists. Other parts of the country, they don't think them that they are terrorists. They think that we are the terrorists. They think Israel is the terrorist. And so therefore they consider this to be an assassination of a leader. And in fact, Turkey is very involved as well. Turkey yesterday, the Turkish Foreign Ministry actually released a press statement stating that Hamas has already appointed a new leader, Khalid Mashal. Khalid Mashal. That is the new leader of Hamas. What did we say yesterday? There are people waiting in the wings to replace these people. You go and you kill the leader of Hamas or the leader of Hezbollah. What does it really solve? It doesn't solve anything. It just makes them angry. And I really, you know, I support Israel and I support Israel's right to defend themselves. I understand the anger that they have. I share that anger. But we have to be very strategic in how we handle that anger. You can't just go completely AWOL and attack these people. And I know we, the United States, we've assassinated plenty of people in our time, you know, leaders of different groups. Linda says, I was hearing part one just fine. Yeah, part one was fine, but then Facebook cut it off and sent me a message that said that it was reported for violence. So I'm not really sure what was going on there, but we will get back to that. So much going on in the Middle East again. Jay says, IDF has the world's top. Lori, Biden and Harris are perfect for each other. Both are not able to communicate. Sad thing is, Biden couldn't help it. Also true. Jay, Iran is going to do something that crosses a line, in my opinion. There is no doubt in my mind, Iran is going to do something because they have always stated that we will not make the first strike, but if you attack us, we will retaliate. And I don't think they're going to go back on their statement. You know, and what ended up happening is that we're begging Iran not to attack us because we know that we're vulnerable right now. We're vulnerable. We have some really wonderful military members serving our country. There's no doubt about it, but we are vulnerable. Look at how much of our, you know, I said this yesterday, look at how much of our military assets we've given to other countries. We're a very vulnerable position right now. We do not have good leadership. We know that we do not have good leadership. So yesterday, the UK, boy, they're right on it because I think they're as scared as we are because, you know, they were as involved as we are. And I played a video for you yesterday with Anthony Blinken stating, oh, we had nothing to do with any of these strikes. I think we all know better. And we certainly know Iran and Lebanon knows better. You don't go into Tehran and kill someone. You don't go into Beirut and kill someone, because if you do, they are going to retaliate. We know this already. So yesterday, British Foreign Minister David Lammy, Defense Minister John Healey out of the UK, they both flew to Beirut to talk to Hezbollah leaders. They have already met with Hezbollah leaders, trying to work out some type of truce. And we talked about the CIA asset swap. They're calling it a prisoner swap. I'm calling it a CIA asset swap because that's exactly what it was. And the timing, again, not a coincidence, because guess who was on the phone with Netanyahu last night? That would be Biden, or Biden's earpiece, whoever actually is doing the job of president. They called Netanyahu and they begged him, please stop. do not, do not fire at anyone else. We need a ceasefire. Do not fire any more shots into Lebanon. No more shots into Iran. Let's broker peace. And I know what was going on behind the scenes. You know what was going on behind the scenes. There is no doubt that we made this deal with Putin to say, hey, we'll give you your operatives back. You give us our operatives back. We didn't want them nearly as bad as Putin did. There, we've had some of these folks over there for a really long time. We haven't done a whole lot of anything to get them back, despite what we did to get Brittany Griner back, right? And so this wasn't for us; it was for Russia. And there's no doubt that Putin has a phone call into Iran, a phone call into Lebanon, saying, let's just try to hold off while the Americans broker peace. I am sure that's exactly what's going on. Will it happen? I don't know. I really don't know. I think we're at a very tricky time. We've been in a tricky, similar situations with the Middle East in the past. I don't know what's going to happen. And Biden, of course, he made a speech who said, oh, we're not at war with any other countries. We are a nation of peace. We are not at war with anyone. And we know that's not true. We know that's not true. We are absolutely in the middle of a war in Ukraine. We have our assets there. We are providing them with money, with weapons, with ammunition. We deny it, but we have U.S. troops in Ukraine fighting Russia. We have since day one. We are over in the Middle East. There's no doubt that we have U.S. troops over in Israel. Our U.S. troops, our special operations have been part of the raids going into Gaza. We know that that's true. We know that U.S. operatives have been part of the barrage that's gone into Lebanon. We're right in the middle of everything, right in the thick of it. So I don't know what Biden's talked about, but the problem is that the people who need to listen the most, which are, our foreign adversaries, what they know the truth. It's the Americans, unfortunately, who don't, because we are all pawns. And when these terror cells that are already in our country, when those folks decide to make that next step, and we have terror attacks right here in our own country, guess who pays the price? It's going to be us. It's not going to be Biden. It's going to be us. And in Turkey, of course, they're right in the middle of it too. Turkey's foreign ministry, they've already met with the new Hamas leader. They met him in Doha yesterday, Khalid Mashal. I don't know anything about him. I'm going to be looking him up to see what he is all about. But typically in these situations, I don't have to tell you guys. You guys are very intelligent, and I know you already know this. What's going to happen anytime the leader of a terror organization is killed? So whether you think they're a terror organization or whether you think they're just people defending, their own assets, either way, there's people waiting in the wings, typically much more dangerous than the person who preceded them. I really think this was a bad move by Israel, unfortunately, and kind of dragged us right into the middle of it, if we weren't behind it the whole time. Jay says, Iran has never needed to attack us. This is just a convenient excuse. Oh, I think it's a good excuse. I don't necessarily think it's convenient. We're behind, a bombing in Tehran in the middle of their country. I think that gives them good reason to attack us. Bill says they aren't ready to play cowboys and Iranians. No, they're not. Jay, Netanyahu is listening to this administration. Oh, he is not listening to this. No, he is not. Netanyahu is doing his own thing. He is not going to listen to anything any world leader has to say. He is on a mission, and I completely understand why. He has every right to protect and defend the people of Israel. And I think we have to start looking at diplomacy. I don't know how that's going to happen. Good morning, Darren, and happy birthday to you. Jay, they've been attacking U.S. bases in the Middle East for almost a year. Well, we attack them too. It's not one-sided. We only hear on the news the one side. But yes, they have proxies, and the proxies do attack our bases. We attack them. Our proxies attack them. I've said this many times, and I'll say it many times again. We, the United States, we also have proxies, and we also attack other countries with our proxies. And so, yes, we in turn get attacked back. That's just part of the game, isn't it? Because that's not going to end anytime soon. Not anytime soon. But I'll be really curious to see what happens with this WhatsApp. Is the IDF using WhatsApp to target these leaders? I would really like to have some answers on that, because I do not know. I don't know. We're kind of in the middle of everything right now, aren't we? Now we have, I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Now we have an official statement from the United States, our wonderful leaders. They said that this is the official statement. The United States recognizes Venezuelan opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of the presidential election in Venezuela. So we have decided that regardless of the fact that allegedly Nicolas Maduro won the election, I don't believe for 1 minute that was a free and fair election. I absolutely believe it was, again, selected, not elected. Maduro, being the communist that he is, of course, his regime made sure that he won, allegedly 79% of the votes. I don't believe that for 1 second. I also believe Edmundo Gonzalez is the true winner of the election. But here's the thing. Why do we, the United States, why are we involved? Why are we calling the true president Edmundo Gonzalez? What are we going to do about it? That would be my question. Are we going to do something about it? I'll bet you we do. I don't know what we're going to do, but I will bet you anything that we do something about it. So right now, Edmundo Gonzalez and one of the other opponents, they are in hiding because Maduro has very straightforward said, you are going to be arrested. And he wants to arrest all of the folks that opposed him. And they have been, I couldn't play this video for you because I get blocked for literally anything I do. There are many videos out there of Maduro's thugs assassinating innocent civilians. I've seen countless videos, young people in the streets protesting an unfair election, what they know was a cheating scam to get the socialists back into position. And you know what's happening? They are assassinating civilians in the streets. A lot of these young people, it is horrific to see. How are we going to get involved? I don't know. And I'm confused as to why. Now, Jay says oil is the reason. And there's always a reason, because you know good and well that our leaders do not care about democracy. I mean, we are the ones who put Maduro into place to begin with, aren't we? We absolutely did. The only thing I can think of, Jay, what they have sugar and oil in Venezuela, is somehow the deal went south between the United States and Maduro. And now all of a sudden we are going to get back involved. We're going to make a deal with someone else. How do we get involved in the election of another country? I know what happened in Syria. Remember what happened in Syria when they had an election, and we, the United States under Obama, we made the statement that we do not recognize Bashir al-Assad as the legal president of Syria. Well, what happened? We ended up making deals with moderate terrorists, as Obama called them, moderate terrorists, to oust Assad. Are we going to become part of a coup in Venezuela? Could it also be the fact that we are desperately trying to deport Venezuelan criminals, murderers, rapists, drug dealers back to Venezuela? And Maduro has said, nope, we are not taking them back. We let them out of the prisons. We ship them over to you, the United States, and we will not take them back. I think there's a lot going on here. A lot going on. Monica says, I love seeing you on X. I hate Facebook. Monica, I'm with you. When I started this podcast, I absolutely knew that I would get banned on just about every platform there was. And I'm going to be on Rumble soon. Rumble's a little bit more difficult. So we will eventually get into Rumble. But anyway, so we need to hold on with what's going on in Venezuela. There's protests going on all across the country. Things are crazy over there right now. We'll have to see. Do we decide to get involved in Venezuela, or do we allow them to fight their own battle? I don't know. For the Venezuelan sake, I really do hope that somehow Gonzalez is recognized as the true president. But how ironic would it be, and how hypocritical would it be for we, the United States, to get involved in an unfair election over in Venezuela when we know what's going on here? How hypocritical would that possibly be? It's mind-boggling to me. And speaking of Harris, I'm sure you guys heard $310 million her campaign raised in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Now, of course, I believe it's 86 million of that came from Biden's campaign fund. So they didn't technically raise 310 million, but that's how much she technically was able to gather in those 2 weeks. That's twice what Trump brought in, twice. But I see that slowing down. Maybe that's only my opinion. I don't have anything to base it on, but I really think that's going to slow down. I do not think that her donors can keep up with that momentum. I know there's a lot of money out there, fighting for socialism, to bring socialism in this country. We'll see. She still hasn't chosen a VP. Now, I know yesterday one of you mentioned Whitmer. Maybe it's going to be Whitmer. Now they're talking about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Do you guys remember him? Remember when all of the widespread rioting was taking place in Minnesota? Do you remember how even their own local news was calling out the governor because he did absolutely nothing? There were innocent civilians murdered by thugs rampaging the streets in Minneapolis. 1,200 businesses in Minneapolis were burned down. $50 billion, I have heard, in damages in Minneapolis in a 2-week period of time. They were burning vehicles, homes, businesses. The governor did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. Do you remember that? He did nothing to stop it. These people were running rampant around the country at that time with riots. And in other areas, you saw the National Guard come in. You saw local police departments getting involved. Not in Minneapolis. Nope, nothing happened. The governor did nothing. So I think we'll know what he will do for us right here in our own country, right? If he is the VP, let's hope and pray she doesn't choose him. Jay, reports are Shapiro canceled a fundraising event for his reelection as governor. Josh Shapiro is the person who I really think Harris is going to pick. But they keep throwing all these other names in, and I'm not really sure what to think. I hope it's not Walz. I really do hope it's not Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. I don't know anything about Josh Shapiro. I've tried to look him up. I haven't found really a lot of dirt on him. He seems pretty moderate. That's going to be the person who I think she's going to pick. Monica says the Act Blue scam was a big part of that. No question. I'm sure you guys all saw some of the videos out there of the Act Blue scam. I didn't play any of them because they're really long, and it's easier to explain what happened than it is to show the videos. But we know that there were independent journalists that went out and they had a list of all of the Act Blue donors. And there were thousands upon thousands of donors, some of them contributing, 10,000, 15,000, 25,000, fairly small donations. So Act Blue is being accused of money laundering through campaign donations. By being accused, I don't mean by a court of law, but I mean by people, investigative journalists. And what they believe they have done is that they made contributions, that they probably received funds like big companies. I'm not going to name any of them because I don't know who that might be. I think we can all guess. But they somehow, Act Blue came along with millions to billions of dollars. And they were funneling all of that money in through these campaign contributions. So the investigative journalists went out and they went door to door. They had a list of all of these campaign donors, went door to door and asked these people, hey, Mr. Smith, did you donate $25,000 to the Biden campaign? And these people are like, what are you talking about? I'm retired. I don't even have any money. I donated $50 or I donated $500. These are not wealthy people. These are people who are retirees. They're students. They're college students. These people did not donate this money. It was the end of the story. And we do really need to get to the bottom of it. It'll never happen. Nothing will ever be done. But I think we know how that $310 million was raised. It's called money laundering, right? Why don't you buy one of Hunter's paintings? Isn't that how money laundering works? So the Harris campaign, $310 million, those 2 weeks in July. We'll see how August fares, September. I still think, somebody asked me last night what I think is going to happen. I still personally believe that something is going to happen between now and November 5th. I really do. I don't know what it's going to be. I know they're trying to fast track Harris into being the official nominee. She's not the nominee yet, but they want to have a virtual vote and make sure that she is the nominee before the convention takes place. That's on August 19th through the 22nd is the DNC convention. But we know RFK Jr., he is trying really hard to get his name in there. He's being held up in Texas right now over some signatures. But I really think that Democrats believe he is going to be on the ballots. I really think they believe that. And he is just a hair away from having his name on the ballot. If RFK Jr. is on the Democrat ballot, is he going to get the delegates? Or are they going to go to Harris? Is she going to be the nominee? Is RFK Jr. is he going to cause some ripples? I don't know. I think there's a lot to be looked at. And I think Harris, have you ever seen outside of Trump himself? Have you ever seen any type of presidential nominee face so much public scrutiny? I mean, it's insane. I'm really surprised that that the media has been allowed to put so much information out there about Harris. And it's so much that Democrats haven't even been able to squash it all. And it's from so many different sources. I'm going to play 2 videos from Judge Joe Brown. And I have to say, I was a little bit surprised that he was so forthcoming in these videos. And I had hoped to play them for you yesterday, but I am going to play them now here in just a few moments. Jay, Democrats are scared of RFK being on the ballot. They absolutely are. Because when you look at the Democrats around you, when you look at the Democrats that maybe you're friends with, that you see on a day-to-day basis in your community, those people relate far better to RFK Jr. than they do to Harris. Now, there's no question that we in the United States, we're becoming more progressive. We saw it, if you live in the St. Louis area, you see it in St. Louis County. St. Louis County, I don't know how it's happened, has become so progressive. And that's happening in a lot of areas. But still, they are still the minority. The progressives are still the minority. And I really think that RFK Jr. could really do some damage being on that ballot. I really do. I really do think that Democrats think Harris can't win if he's on that ballot. And so we'll see what happens there. But in the meantime, so much backlash against Harris. I think we all know why. But some of these statements from Judge Joe Brown, I was really surprised. These are 2 videos. I'm going to play them back to back, and I will see if you are as surprised as I am.
But I gotta ask you about Kamala Harris. How you feel about her?
She's a piece of shit. I was in California. She lacked professional competence, and she worked on it by hiking up her hemline when she needed influence rather than researching. She's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants. Now, the problem is that'll get somebody to a certain level quickly. But you can't get past that level if you don't have competence and talent. So my thing about it is if I'm crude about it, in this city years ago, I used to represent a whole bunch of pimps and hoes, and I know a hoe when I see one. And I say this, I don't care, women, you do what you want to do if you want to have recreational sex, but when you do the casting couch or anything else for professional purposes to get paid or advance, you a hoe. And she's old hoe. And the problem is what is she supposed to do? Somebody one of her sycophant slaves comes up and unwraps her in a carpet naked at Putin's feet, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm Julius Caesar." He said, "No, ho, I got better stuff here already. Plus, I don't want you anyway, you old woman. Get on up." You know, or Xi Jinping, is he supposed to be impressed? She's doing word salad. Well, we're here today because China and the U.S. are here today, and that's why we have to agree on what we're doing here today. Like, fool, what did you just say? You know, did you say anything? And then she was everybody's favorite Hindu Indian prosecutor and attorney general and senator, and now she becomes black. But, you know, I met her daddy, fine gentleman, Professor Harris. And the problem with her being black is Professor Harris says he's Caucasian, mixed Irish and Hindu. He doesn't have any black ancestors, but his Irish ancestors owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica and had them to work on plantation. So if mama is on the birth certificate listed as a Caucasian, daddy says he's a Caucasian Hindu and has no black ancestors, how did she get to be black?
Those were some pretty damning statements by Judge Joe Brown. I mean, I can't believe he said all of that. And Robert, you've got it right. Wow, no words. He says it all. Yes, he definitely did say it all. And it is really, it's wild, some of the stuff I've been hearing. And we know that Trump has been completely bashed by talking about Harris's nationality. What is her race? And you can go back and look at old newspaper articles, and it does. She was celebrated at one point as the first Indian senator. She was celebrated for her Hindu, and she's had so many accomplishments for her Indian heritage. And now, of course, we want to celebrate her for her Black heritage. But does she have Black heritage? I don't know. I'm not a geneticist. I haven't seen her genetic makeup. But just like Joe Brown says, both of her, her father considers himself Caucasian, 50%. I think it was a mix of Irish and something else, and Irish and white, I believe, Caucasian, and then 50% Hindu, Indian. Eh, I don't know. I don't know. It's not for me to say what she identifies as. Maybe she does identify as black, but if she's not black, if she doesn't have any, if she doesn't have any black heritage, I don't see how we can call her the potential first black president. That is what it is. I'm not racist for saying that. It's a very valid conversation, and it's a shame. And we all know what gaslighting is. We all know what intimidation is. And what's happening right now is intimidation. They want to intimidate Trump from talking about it. They want to intimidate us from talking about it. And I'm sure for all of you and for me personally, I could care less. I could care less if she identifies as black, Jamaican, Irish, Caucasian, makes no difference to me. She's a socialist either way, and that's the part of her I'm fighting against. I don't care what her race is. But I do think it was interesting that Joe Brown mentioned, here's what's interesting about Joe Brown's statement when he talked about her being a hoe. I don't like to say those things about any woman. I really don't. And I have not. I've refrained from even talking. This is the 11th episode of the show. I have not yet once mentioned Harris and the things that she's been accused of, sleeping her way to the top and all of these. Never talked about it even once. And then I heard this Judge Joe Brown interview, and I thought, if it weren't true, he would be potentially charged with libel, slander. She could sue him. And if it is true, then she's obviously not going to do a darn thing. And he's a judge. I think he knows that if he commits slander, that he could, again, be the result of a lawsuit. I'm thinking that he's saying what he's saying because it's true, don't you? I don't know. So Jay says it's gaslighting, and now they can play the race card. It's all gaslighting. Brent says the markets are not liking her either. Oh my gosh, the stock market has been crazy. Crazy. Job market. Breaking news today. The job market has slowed to 114,000 jobs in July. And that came down from over 200 and something thousand in the previous count. So it's not looking good for Harris in any way, despite what the polls say. What I don't believe any of the polls anyway. So it's something to look at. We'll see what her VP does for her. I'm sure they're being very strategic in figuring out who her VP is going to be. Yesterday we went over some of the poll results and allegedly her winning in some of the swing states. I don't believe a bit of it. I really do think that all of these Harris supporters are being paid. It's easy for me to say, and people, if you were a Democrat, you'd say, oh, well, that's so easy for you to say. But it is easy to say because we have videos. I've played the videos on the show of people saying, well, I was offered to be paid $150 if I followed all her social media accounts, or I was offered to pay $400 if I come to her rally, or if I vote for her, I was paid X amount of money. So, I mean, come on. Jay says Bidenomics is unraveling. Man, that's my most hated word, Bidenomics. Kicking us into the trash can is more what that's about. I think things are so bad for Harris. Did you know that CNN is shutting down their opinion piece? Which is just crazy to me because everyone knows the CNN opinion section has been crazy, right? Crazy. They're always, going after Trump, going after conservatives. I've heard that they've been receiving so many different pieces coming in from people saying they don't want to vote for Harris. And they have to shut down their opinion section, at least for now, because they're going to really reveal otherwise how many Americans really, especially in the Black community, do not want Harris as their president. I think that's going to come around pretty quick. So CNN, they're shutting down the opinion section. They've already laid off employees. We'll see how long that lasts. Something tells me that they'll be back in business at some point when they get things turned around. Have you guys seen the riots that are taking place in the UK? It is unbelievable what's going on over there. You guys might remember there were 3 children that were stabbed by a illegal immigrant, and we know what has happened. I should say an illegal. What has happened in the UK? We're just a few steps behind them, aren't we? Just a few steps. We have opened our borders. We have allowed criminals, drug dealers, murderers into our country, and it is just a matter of time before they have taken over. And that's exactly what's happened in the UK. These people have taken over, and now in the UK, they don't know what to do. They really have no idea what to do. They're trying to figure out how they are going to get these protests to stop. And what's happened is a lot of these protesters are upset that the police have arrested this illegal. He's 17 years old, and I'm gonna play a statement here for you out of the UK, and you're gonna see just how bad things are over there. They're very worried about what's taking place in their country. Well, I'm going to try to play for you. I don't know what is going on, but sometimes in the 8 o'clock hour, my videos just disappear. I don't know what happens to them, but it appears to be gone. I really think it's strange that I'm kind of going off script here for a second to talk about this. I don't know what's going on with my videos. When I come in the morning and I load all of my videos, I check to make sure they are all there. In the 7 o'clock hour, they are all there. Everything is there. I can see it all. Everything is here. Then all of a sudden, when I get into the 8 o'clock hour, things are gone and things have changed. And I certainly don't think anybody in Restream is trying to sabotage me, but it is really weird. I'm going to go in today and look at that because I had a really interesting video to play from the UK where they talk about immigration and they talk about these roving gangs of migrants who are going around and rioting and attacking people and destroying businesses. And I wanted to make the point that we are not that far from that happening here in this country. It only takes one incident to send people over the edge. And then the next thing you know, here, we have roving gangs of illegals coming through our cities, destroying businesses, injuring citizens, innocent civilians. I don't know what's going to happen. Brent says they voted in the far left in England. They did. And that's exactly what we're doing here as well. Bill says they are wasting time, so Trump can't focus on his opponents because he doesn't even know who they are yet, trying to get him to waste his time and money trying. Jay. They take polls in areas that they know where they will get the responses they want. No question about it. And, they're attacking us right now. And I don't know if any of you guys have heard this yet, but they're going to be talking a lot about Republicans going after retirement age. So, the Center for American Progress, it's a Republican study committee. They've recently released a report that said they are looking at changing the retirement age from 67 to 69. So, Democrats are saying, okay, if Republicans pass this bill and they raise the retirement age to 69, that for one, retirees are going to lose $6,900 a year. Obviously not good. But here's something that I thought was interesting. And the board, the Center of American Progress, it is a board of 170 GOP lawmakers. They are the folks who are studying what are the repercussions if we extend the retirement age from 67 to 69. I think it's crazy that it's 67, quite honestly. They just keep moving out the goalposts, don't they? So, what Republican GOP lawmakers are saying is that they are trying to come up with a plan to increase the retirement age to when you can receive your benefits without penalty to allow for the increase in life expectancy. So they're basically saying because you live longer, you should be able to work longer. Because your life expectancy is greater than what it was, you should retire at a later age. And I'm going to tell you, I am no fan of the GOP. I'm not. I don't like anyone in Congress for the most part, other than some folks on the Freedom Caucus. I don't think any of them are fighting for us, and that includes the folks on the GOP, quite honestly. Those people, they are not on our side. They are in it for themselves. They are also part of the problem. And can you imagine wanting to move the retirement age to 69? And now that is not going to affect anyone that is in the process of retiring, that already has submitted, the necessary paperwork and so on. And as Jay says, Trump has said no retirement age increases. If Trump is elected president, he will never allow this type of bill to go through. He has made that very clear that he will not take any money out of Social Security. He will not reduce any of the type of care you get through Medicare. He will not allow an increase in the age you need to retire. He is going to completely leave your Social Security alone. And it's so frustrating to me because, we as a country, we're in debt. We don't have any money. Oh, the money that if you're retired or on disability or whatever, and you're receiving a paycheck every month, we don't have that money. We're just going into debt further. So to me, if we're already in debt, we continue to go into debt, pay the people their money. If you've paid all this money into Social Security your entire life, you should be able to retire at a decent age where you're able to actually enjoy your retirement. I'm not president. I would never be elected president. But if I were, I would make sure if we're going to go do it in debt to send money to other countries, we send money to Indonesia to help them teach them how to play cricket. We're sending money to Ukraine. We're sending money to all of these different countries for the most ridiculous things you've ever heard. We need to take some of that money and funnel it back to Americans. I personally believe that you should get back every single penny you've paid into Social Security, every penny. When you retire, every penny needs to come back to you. You should receive some of your tax money back. It upsets me. We send all this money out to all of these different countries. We fund so many projects that don't need to be funded. And then our own people are forced to work until they're 69 years old. Come on now. You know how many people that I have known personally or friends of friends who have waited till they're 60 plus years old to retire. And then the minute they retire, they pass away. I mean, it's wrong. It's unfair. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Jay says, what needs to happen is Social Security needs an increase because, of course, it needs an increase. It's not even giving those on. No, of course, it needs an increase. Kathy says, if you think for 1 minute the Dems wouldn't be in favor of this to pay illegals, think again. Oh, it is crazy what the money they're paying to illegals. You have worked your entire life in this country, your entire life. You have paid your debt. 73 cents out of every dollar you've worked for has gone into taxes. And they are going to tell you now you have to wait till you're 69 years old to retire. That's the GOP that's doing this. Always keep that in mind. That is the GOP. Trump's not part of the GOP. He is not. And that's why I like Trump. Jay says, and on social already, low amount, and then charging monthly fees for health insurance. It is ridiculous. Sherry says they want us all to die off. Yes, they absolutely do want us to die off. Why do you think the C word targeted, the elderly folks and the people who cost the most burden on the healthcare system, right? Did you ever think about that? All of the people that the C word targeted most were the people who are the biggest debt, the biggest burden to our healthcare system. I will not believe that was any coincidence whatsoever. Sherry says, I saw a verified receipt from Venezuela about a balance of $14,000, $5,000 cash balance. Well, yes, that was an EBT balance. There are people right here in our country, who have an EBT balance of thousands of dollars. We have people coming into this country who have never worked a single day, have never paid a single tax dollar, nothing. They have housing, they have tuition, they have healthcare, they have a monthly stipend, cash. They're giving them cash. You can't get that here. I'll bet you, as an example, Sherry, let's just use you as an example. I don't know how old you are. I don't know anything, about your situation, but let's just say that you have worked your entire life. You're ready to retire. And all of a sudden, your government tells you, nope, sorry, Sherry. Sorry, we don't have the money for that. You're going to live longer. You're probably going to live to be 90. So we're going to make you wait and not retire until you're 69 years old. And then on top of that, we're going to cut your Social Security benefits. So you're going to have to choose. Can you pay for medical? Can you pay for your medications? Or can you pay for your utility bills? Or maybe your mortgage? You're going to have to choose between those. So you better be prepared because we're not going to give you enough money to pay for everything. It makes me sick, absolutely sick that is how we treat Americans. But yet you come over to this country, you walk across our southern border, we have no idea who you are. Here, just take it. I think I told you guys about the programs for some of these illegals coming through in work programs. Our government is paying. I'm going to say it again because it's so important. Our government is paying illegals in our country. They're setting them up with jobs. We have so many unemployed people, so many unemployed veterans. They are setting these illegals up with a job. And the deal is you work the job for 2 years. And if you work this job, most of these jobs are in trucking. If you work this job for 2 years, not only are you going to get paid from the employer, their typical wage that they would pay anyone else, we're going to double it. So let's say that this trucking company is going to pay you $1,000. Well, we, the government, we're going to pay you $1,000 too. So you're going to get double pay. You're going to work for 2 years. And on top of all of that, that's such a good deal already. On top of all of that, we're going to pay for your housing. We're going to give you money to pay for your healthcare. We're going to give you free tuition if you decide you want to go to school. We're going to supply everything you might possibly need for those 2 years. And then after you've completed your 2-year program, you can bring your entire family over. And then guess what? We're going to pay for them too. I kid you not. It is not a joke. That is exactly what's happening. I promise you on my life, that is exactly what's happening. A lot of these truck drivers you see that are from other countries, a lot of them from the Ukraine, by the way, those folks are coming over here. We're paying double their salary. It drives me nuts. Man, it drives me nuts. And it's happening. And of course, these people are going to vote for Democrats, and they're going to allow them to vote for Democrats, no question. And then we here, we're faced with a lot of other problems, aren't we? Man-made weather. I mean, hasn't the weather been really crazy lately? The weather has been absolutely insane. And I read an article yesterday, and I looked at this. I'm like, they're literally just trying to kill us, is what it comes down to. Have you heard of these new waves coming through that are 100% humidity? Can you imagine 100% humidity? Well, whether you know this or not, we as humans, we can't survive 100% humidity. And you can't tell me that this isn't on purpose. You cannot tell me that this is not on purpose. So what they're trying to tell us right now, okay, is that we have these waves coming through the United States, making their way across. And these heat storms, that's what they're calling them, a heat storm, has 100% humidity. Think about this. So what happens when the humidity is high enough, your body does not sweat. So if there's 100% humidity, your body cannot sweat. It is physically not possible for your body to sweat. Well, what happens when you don't sweat? The heat stays inside of your body. And this is what I read, and I looked this up on PubMed just to make sure I had it correct. And Margie says humidity is suffocating. It's been really bad the past couple days for sure. So according to PubMed, if the humidity is high enough to make sweating impossible, our body temperature can climb to dangerous levels. Imagine that. Normally, our core temperature is around 98.6. If it rises above 104, then you have unconsciousness, of course, seizures, and organ failure. So if your body reaches 104 degrees, then your temperature, you're going to be potentially unconscious. You're going to have seizures. You're going to have organ failure. Then when your body heat continues to rise, once you get to 111, it is death. I mean, that's according to PubMed. Once sweating is prevented, the body's core temperature will just keep rising, and it will lead to death within 6 hours. So, on one hand, we have I'm not sure who is reporting it, whether it's meteorologists, the media trying to scare us half to death, or someone else, but they're telling us there's these heat waves coming through the United States, and within these heat waves the humidity is 100%. So then we have PubMed telling us, well, if we have 100% humidity, guess what happens? You're going to die. Now, of course, we can all go inside and sit in our air conditioning, but you can't be in the air conditioning all the time. There's a lot of people who don't even have air conditioning. There's people who work outside in the heat. You can't tell me that that's not man-made and it's not made with intention. You don't. So what's going to happen? Are we going to close the polls because it's 100% humidity outside? It's crazy. It really makes me wonder what in the world is going on. And I think we all know the weather is manipulated, the weather's controlled. I don't have to tell you guys anything because I know you guys know. Something I've been talking about for many, many years. And a lot of governments are starting to be very forward with saying that, yes, we do manipulate the weather. Yes, we do seed the clouds. We do have chemtrails. Those things are real. And a lot of countries are fairly straightforward with that. In the the United Arab Emirates have from day one always been very forward with their weather controlling procedures. And I've been talking about this for years. People think I'm absolutely nuts, but now it's a little bit more obvious. But years ago, the UAE said, we are seeding the clouds, we are creating rain because we are building this big, beautiful resort out in the desert, and we need it to look like a tropical rainforest. So that has been going on for many, many years. At this point in time, that tropical rainforest has grown. They have a river, and a lot of folks visit that area of the United Arab Emirates. It is a tourist destination. But nobody believed it. They said, "Oh, you can't manipulate weather. That's not true. None of that's actually happening." We see it every single day. I don't know how old, most of you are, but I know when I was a kid and I looked up at the sky and I looked at the clouds, what did you see? You saw a big, beautiful sky with some fluffy clouds floating by, didn't you? If you go back and look at photos of the sky back then, that's what you see. But that's not mostly what we see now, is it? Now we see crisscrosses and zigzags and lines, and we know exactly what's happening. Bill Gates has been a little bit better about admitting that he has figured out ways to block the sun because God forbid it's climate change and our earth is warming. But no, and geologists know, we have real scientists, not just the scientists that are paid by the government. There are real scientists out there, and they look at the sediment and they can see, okay, 10,000 years ago, the earth was really warm, and then it cooled, and then it got really cold, and then we had an ice age, and then guess what? It warmed again, and it got really hot, and then it cooled again. The Earth's weather is cyclical. It is cyclical. It will warm and it will cool. It will warm and it will cool. And according to these real scientists, again, not the scientists paid by the government, real scientists, they tell us we are at the top of the warming cycle right now at the top. But when it comes down to 100% humidity, I mean, I have no idea what I'm talking about today. You can tell it's a Friday. 100% humidity, that is man-made. That is man-made. There is no doubt about it. Man-made. They're even giving warnings that at some point Phoenix, Arizona is going to be completely uninhabitable, that human life will not be able to survive in Phoenix. I mean, that's crazy. It's like, what are they going to do to us next? Jay says, exactly otherwise, ice ages would have never ended. Right, exactly. You know, you have your ice age, and you have a warming period, ice age, warming period. Where I live right now, is crazy as it sounds, used to be covered by a glacier. My yard, what is my beautiful yard right now, this used to be a glacier. I would be standing on top of a glacier right now. But no, guess what? The earth warmed up. It melted the glacier. Now I have a beautiful stream in the backyard. It's like, what are they doing to us? I don't know if we'll ever know. I really don't. They're trying to kill us every chance they have. You know, I read a really sad report the other day, speaking of things they're trying to do to us. And I'm not sure if you guys heard about this. Do you know what a slush puppy was? I am so old. I couldn't even remember what a slush puppy was. I knew the name sounded familiar, so I had to go and look it up. And then I looked, I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I know exactly what that is. Well, slush puppies, they are full of glycerol. Do you know what glycerol is? It is a chemical. It is used, it keeps liquids from freezing. So there was a report I read about a 2-year-old. The 2-year-old was given a slush puppy from her mother. And slush puppy is like a frozen drink, a slushy drink. I'm sure you know what it is. And within 20 minutes, she turned purple. She couldn't breathe. Her blood sugar plummeted. She was taken to the emergency room. Doctor said, had her mother delayed even by 15 minutes, she would have died, all because she drank a slush puppy. Well, then what comes out is that the there's a warning about glycerol, that no child under 4 years old should ever consume glycerol, because if they do, they could potentially face shock, hypoglycemia, and loss of consciousness. But nowhere is it written that there has to be a label on a product containing glycerol that tells you, if you give this slushy to your children, if they're under the age of 4, they could potentially die from an additive in a slush puppy. And I was trying to look up some other products that glycerol's in, and it turns out it's in a lot of different products. It's so confusing to me that our government, our FDA, they want to warn us about everything, don't they? They keep us from using a lot of products we would really like to use, things that are actually healthy. They don't want people, let's say like Dr. Deputy, right? Talking about the I word, ivermectin. I think we're allowed to say that word now. Can't talk about ivermectin. Nope, 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 nope. Get banned for doing that. But they can fill children's treats with glycerol. That's okay. No warning necessary. Give it to your kid. Nobody cares, right? Gosh, that aggravates me. And I'm going to be doing more research on this glycerol, because it is in so many different products. And no one is telling people that you should not give this to your children. And this just goes back to what I believe and have always thought, that you just need to make your own treats. You need to make your own treats for your children, and for yourself as well. It's not worth it. And Teflon, we've all used Teflon, haven't we? I know I've used Teflon. Probably have some old Teflon pans in my kitchen. Teflon is poison. It is literally poison. And I don't know about you guys, but something that I have been working on is moving back to cast iron. I'm trying to move away from nonstick skillets, nonstick cooking pans, and going back to cast iron. So every time I find a cast iron pan, I buy it, because I prefer to use cast iron for everything I cook. Teflon will kill you. It will make you sick. And it's so crazy to think that I have chickens, and so I belong to a lot of groups on different social media pages of other people who raise chickens. And one of the things that comes up so often is that people will have baby chicks. And a lot of times when you have baby chicks, you keep them inside your house because they're easier to care for. and they have to be, kept at a certain temperature, and it has to be changed. The temperature has to be lowered each week. It's just too hard to put them outside at such young ages. And so often these baby chicks don't survive. And one of the first things that people talk about on these pages is, oh my gosh, were you cooking on Teflon? Because Teflon has a fume, a toxic fume. You don't even realize you're poisoning yourself. But when you cook on a Teflon surface, again, today is Friday and I cannot talk. When you cook on a Teflon surface, you are continuously releasing these toxins into the air. They affect your pets first, but they affect you too. And this chemical, it seeps into your carpets, into your fabrics, and it is a never-ending chemical. Once it is released into the air, it is always there. And I am hearing about people going and having their hair tested to see if they have different types of toxins in their body through their hair. And that was something I was looking into last night. I'm like, I'm gonna try to find out where we can get these tests done. As all of you know, and if any of you guys used to listen to prior shows, wherever I was, Dr. Eric Naputi was always on there. I'm gonna try to get Dr. Eric Naputi to join us at some point. I don't know if he'll be up for it. I haven't talked to him yet. I would love that if he did join us at some point to talk about these things. As you know, when you go to your doctor's office, they don't test you for toxins. They don't test you for parasites. They don't test you for minerals or vitamins or any of those other things. Now you can ask them to. I have literally asked my primary care physician to test me for the things, and they say no. They're not equipped for it. They don't do it. No, sorry, not going to happen. You have to go somewhere like a Dr. Eric Naputi to have these things tested. And I'm going to try to get a lot more information about that because it's something that I hope that we talk a lot about. There are so many products out there right now that we use and consume on a regular basis that are killing us. They're literally slowly killing us, and they're killing our pets. It's Linda says, I loved your morning show on Real Talk with Kel. I miss Kel. Kel's a very sweet, good person. I hope she's out there doing some good things. And Patty, I asked my doctor if she could prescribe ivermectin, and she said, no, of course she can't. Nope. I got to be careful talking about it. I already had the first segment of the show blocked on Facebook. I'll have to post that later so you guys can see the block warning. They've sent me warnings since we've been on the show too. And I'll have to get into that. I can see my phone over here popping up little warnings from Facebook. And so I'll probably be blocked for talking about ivermectin also. But I started talking about ivermectin very early on when it came to the C word. In fact, I'm the one that told Dr. Eric Naputi about it. He hadn't yet heard of it. And I heard of it from a doctor. I happened to go on a boating trip and this doctor told me about it. And I was really surprised and looked into it. And every time I've bought it, and I still buy it and I still use it, at least once a month, you know what? I use the paste. And I know people made fun of me all the time. As a matter of fact, I got in flat out fights, if you guys remember, on on the edge with Eric and Vic at times talking about the I word. But I'll tell you what, it works. It works. And I think there's a lot more to it now. One thing that we'll talk about in an upcoming show. Yesterday, I talked about cholesterol and cancer. Well, I'm also going to be talking about ivermectin and cancer because I firmly believe that not all forms of cancer, but that some forms of cancer are actually just parasitic. And maybe all of them. Lori says, what are you using it for? I think that people, and I'm not telling you what to do. I am not a doctor. Before you use it, talk to your doctor, talk to an Eric Naputi type doctor, talk to someone just to make sure it's safe for you. I personally use it because I do believe that it kills viruses, which in my opinion, viruses are parasites. It kills parasites in the body. And then I've learned the hard way that you also have to use a probiotic. So if you take the ivermectin, you take it on an empty stomach with water. And now there's other different preparations out there too, which we can get into on another day. But if you take it with water on an empty stomach, make sure you follow up with probiotics, because if you do not, it can actually, if you take it for a long enough time, it can cause you to have stomach ulcers and some other things, which when you think about it makes sense because you're eliminating the bacteria in your stomach and throughout your entire system. And when you do that, you're also killing the good bacteria along with the bad bacteria. So you have to use a probiotic to get your system back on track. And I did not know that before. It's something I kind of learned the hard way. Pam says, You sure did. We watched Eric and Vic laugh at you, treating you for treating with the ivermectin. Oh my gosh, Eric used to make horse noises, and it was funny, and it was all in fun and jest. That's for sure. But it worked, and we're finding out that there are so many things out there that are helpful to us, and then some of the things we're taking are really bad for us. And I personally believe in trying to eliminate as much bad as you can. For me personally, and something we'll be talking about when I get some medical experts on here. So again, I am not a medical expert. I've never taken a medical class a day in my life. So do not listen to me. Listen to your doctor, or listen to a Dr. Naputi type doctor. Well, I have somebody locally here in Vandalia who I'm hoping will join us at some point to talk about health and wellness and that type of thing. So we'll have some folks coming on and talking. But right now, my goal for my own personal self is I want to be more alkaline, because I think we both know what happens in an acidic environment versus an alkaline environment. It's really difficult to make sure you eat foods and drink things that are going to keep your body alkaline. You can buy an at home test that you can use to tell you whether or not your blood or your urine is acidic versus alkaline. That's something that I want to do a detox. And Pam says, Jay said that he takes zinc, or both of you take zinc. I can't take zinc. If I take zinc, I am so sick and so nauseous. But we're doing so many things to our body. And another thing we'll talk about someday is that, there's such a trend right now for people to use these different weight loss drugs. A lot of people, what is there, Mounjaro? I don't even remember the names of them all. There's so many of them, some more common than others. And now we're hearing all of these reports of side effects, people losing their vision, people having massive migraines, people having literally have to go to emergency rooms because of some of the stomach upset they cause. And we have to be careful what we put in our body. And I don't think any of those things are safe. I would love to lose a few pounds. I really would. But I am not going to be taking any shots to lose weight because I think we've learned in the past with every diet that any of us have ever been on, as soon as you stop, you gain it all back. Two, when you're putting and injecting these things into your body, you're not only injecting the medication, but you're injecting all of the mix-ins that go with it, all the fillers. And I know so many people who've done it and have been successful and have lost weight and feel great. I'm not saying that it's bad for everyone, depending on what your situation is. And sometimes being overweight is harder on your body than taking these injections. So that's something we're going to get into some point. But health and wellness is always going to be really big on my mind. Karen says Wegovy is another one, and I got so sick I had to stop taking it. You're not the only one, Karen. There are so many. My stepsister was taking one of them. I can't remember which one it was. It started with an S. And I asked her if I could try it because I just wanted to see, what it's like. So I used it for 2 days, and I used the tiniest bit you could take. I have never been so sick in my entire life. I have never been so sick. One of those nights, I think it was the second night, I woke up and I kid you not, I almost cried. I thought I was going to have to call 911 and go to the emergency room. I will never do that again. Never will I do that again. And that is on the tiniest dosage you could even give yourself. Never again. And Pam says injectables are causing the intestines to shut down. Yes, they are. It's causing gastroparesis in a lot of people. And again, I know people who've taken it now for over a year and they've been very happy with the results. But what happens when you stop taking it? What happens then? And I feel bad talking about this because I know right now there's a lot of people, the doctors, that we have all trusted with our science, real science, since the C happened to us all, are a lot of the same people who are selling these different injectables. So a little bit of a conflict there. I don't think they're healthy. I don't think you should take them. I think they're very damaging to your body. And, I'm not a medical doctor. We'll talk about that another day. Some other things I wanted to get to really quickly. Stevia. Don't you? I say stevia. Some people say stevia. I don't really know what the correct term is. Have you guys seen this yet? That stevia, whichever term you want to use, is a contraceptive. Don't you think that's kind of crazy? Because aren't they filling all of our products with stevia? I mean, it's pretty much in everything right now, isn't it? It's in everything. And so I looked that up yesterday, and I've got a note here on that of what I read in PubMed. I refer to PubMed quite a bit. So in PubMed, here's what it states. They did a study on stevia, and it says a water decoction, I don't know what decoction means, of the plant stevia reduces fertility in adult female rats of proven fertility. The decoction continues to decrease fertility for at least 50 to 60 days after intake is stopped. The decoction did not affect appetite and apparently did not affect the health of adult rats outside of contraception. And if you go out and you look this up yourself, you look up the stevia and how it relates to contraception, you will be really shocked. I know I was. Going back as far as the late 1800s, there were doctors using stevia as a contraception. There are Indian tribes, in different parts of the world who have been using it, they claim, for centuries. It's a natural plant. And back then, when of course there was no type of birth control that existed, they used stevia. And now it's something that we see in so many products, and it causes, allegedly, according to these studies, it causes infertility in males and females. Why are they putting it? Why are they saying it's a natural sweetener? Why are they putting it in all of our products? Do you think that that's part of a depopulation plan? Am I going off the rails talking about that? I don't know. And of course it's in a higher concentration, but a lot of people consume a higher concentration of it because it's in everything, right? It's in your tea, it's in your juices, it's in bubble gum, it's in so many different products. And we've been told that it's safe. How many people have bought? I know I have. I probably have 4 or 5 jars somewhere in the house of different flavors, even of the drops. You get the drops, you put them in your tea or your coffee, and it's a natural flavoring. But nope, it's a contraception. Think about that. Depopulation. What better way to do it than tell us it's a natural alternative to sugar? You won't gain weight, but you also will not be having any children. So think about that. And it was kind of interesting to go down the rabbit hole with that there are other plants that are out there that can be used as natural for a natural abortion. I would have never thought that. Things that different tribes have been using for centuries. I had no idea. So it's a learning experience to me as well to learn some of these different things. And I'm going to be doing a lot of research on different natural type of plants, things we might forage in our yard that are good for us. I think it's very important for every person to know when you go out into your backyard, if you go to the park, what you can forage for, what you can use to sustain yourself if need be. So we're going to get into that. For anyone who missed part of the show earlier today, Colonel Joe Adams, he's going to be joining us. He's going to have a weekly segment, hopefully starting on Monday. I'll keep everybody updated this weekend as to when Colonel Joe Adams is going to come on with us. Pam says stevia is better than sweet and low or aspartame. Yeah, aspartame. What do they find out? That can cause schizophrenia, I believe. Sometimes some of these different additives can cause brain tumors. None of it's good. I mean, real plain raw sugar is probably better than any of it. It really is. There's hard to be on a keto diet with it, but hey, what can you do? So we're going to have Colonel Joe Adams joining us. I'm not sure about Joe Fresta. I talked about that a little bit earlier. We're going to do a 3-hour show today, so he could come on, and we're going to do the dating game segment. He is not available today. He's working out a radio deal somewhere. So we'll see how that plays out. I've got a real estate expert who's going to be coming on with us as a regular segment, hopefully starting next week, if not the week after. I have a lot of guests planned, a lot of things lined up. So today's episode number 11. Again, thank you all for hanging in there with me and for my trial and error with my technology. I really do appreciate all of the support. I've received so many messages, private messages from so many people. And again, I appreciate it more than any of you could possibly know. I think that, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, and the show will evolve, and we will have segments. We will have guests. We will have a lot of information to provide. My goal is to be very informative and talk about things that you're probably not going to hear on a lot of other shows. So that's the goal. If you guys want to suggest any topics, if you find some breaking news, if there's anything that you want to talk about, be sure to email me. There should be a ticker, whether it works, I don't know, that has my email address at the bottom of the screen. And you can send me emails at tabitha@tabithahassel.com. I would be happy to look into anything you guys might have. I'm going to have phone calls starting next week. Again, getting that lined out. I've been doing testing on the phone call. So I would really love to hear from some of you. Always feel free. I'm going to give out the phone number next week. Always feel free to call into the show. Always interested to, to see what anyone has to say on any topic. So on that note, I hope all of you have a really great weekend, and I will see all of you on Monday. Again, I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap. Have a good weekend, everybody.